February 2022. As of yesterday, the head of Russia, Vladimir Putin, has decided to invade the sovereign territory of Ukraine under some ancient whatever the hell. It's looking like, I don't know, I'm not going to say anything. Just pray for the fighters and the people of Ukraine. The pretexts that were being done are a bunch of BS. And it is also why he wanted Trump in so much, who did most of his work for him. I wanted, before we begin this here, let's see here, let's look at something. This is about how GM sold itself out to China like a bunch of dipshits. I'm starting to more and more think that the reason that the Chinese did the whole 2-year, 2-term thing was to fake out America. But that's just something else. Pompeo. He. This is something. Just to start this, where and he's chuckling and laughing. Yeah. He just said counterproductive. He didn't say wrong. He said counterproductive. He, interlocutor. And you noticed how he smiled. That's what he wants. That's what he. That's that. But for Trump, for whoever the U.S. leader is, that they are no longer that we no longer are a democratic republic. This is taken from a lot. Mike Pompeo is an evangelical, and the whole thing of creating all those other things along with that implied straight up bigotry and all those other things. Unfortunately, I say that about evangelicals. Not all evangelicals, but unfortunately, Caucasoid, or better known as white evangelicals, a lot of the reading of the Bible is unfortunate recently. Now, the younger ones are less inclined with this isms, this bigotry. Still love God, still love Jesus, still be to non-evangelicals the annoying evangelical, but without the bigotry. These old schoolers are just straight up bigots, and they use God to create more bigotry, and also looking for. And then they'll say, well, if it's God creating the bigotry, but it's not God creating the bigotry, it's man, it's humanity, it's an externalization, because evangelicals are hyper extroverted. So we've had a Manchurian candidate who is now fully, that was in 45, destabilized the world. That's what everything. See, you have to understand. A person. It is stated that it high probability. I do not. That if and also from his behaviors, you'll see when the past president would have the psychic splits. Same as well with Mr. Carlson, Tucker, would have the same psychic splits as he did in March. That's a cluster B MPD thing as the personality starts to switch. if my hypothesis is correct, and it seems to have been, usually it's an externalization. So what he externalizes is who he's doing. So he's all those things is who he wants to be. So right now, 45 views Putin is this strong person when he's actually weak because he never increased in 20 years has not been able to increase the strength of the economy of the Russians, and the Russians are very, very good people. The Russian Empire now. He wants to return to the Russian Empire. Remember the Tsars, which was short for was Russian for Caesar. So he believes in that, and as well as G, that people shouldn't have their own right to self sovereignty and self governance, and that's what this whole Ukraine thing is. His belief that people shouldn't have, which is BS. I'm not even going to say that. People should have their own freedoms and their own abilities to create their own destiny in concerto with others if they choose. However, what makes it great is you can't. You have to. America. It's always. There's just a lot of things going on. Give me a second. All we can do is give the Ukrainians weaponry. They never became part of NATO. Putin's BS about NATO expanding. Well, NATO wouldn't have expanded if Putin was an asshole. Quite honest. He made NATO expand. You have all these smaller countries where it's like, hey, dude, we just want to make some money, make the best for our people. Maybe have a skirmish here or there, whatever, whatever. But as all empires do, they can't ever stop until they keep gobbling stuff up. So, and that's where we're at. And the Republican Party, or what's left of the Republican Party, because I don't call them Republicans anymore. They're not conservatives. They're fascists, as far as I'm concerned. Which is, ironically, fascism is the communism of corporations. Dictatorship of corporations. One of the things that Hitler knew he had to do when he took over was turn the armaments and the commanding heights of the economy, the persons who control that, into get them on their side. We can see that also right now. I have a lot of great deal of respect for, I believe it's Colonel, yeah, Light Colonel or Colonel Tulsi Gabbard, Representative Gabbard from Hawaii, but I completely disagree with her. I disagree with her stance on Russia. I disagree with her stance on viewing that as strength. He's not strong. I don't know where she got that from. I don't understand that. I even you have the Polynesian masculine, but it still doesn't line up. Doesn't make sense. But that's just me. As far as I'm concerned, she's selling out the country, but and she's selling out her own Polynesian people. But I understand, why this is America. That's the greatest thing, especially when you view it from the history perspective. I can understand that as far as certain other things I'm not going to discuss here, but it's not cool. Let's see here. Okay. The other day, just wanted to say that about the Pompeo. That where he was yakking, that is the true sign that he was working against his idea of American national. Trump wanted to be a dictator, and he started setting the seeds from the very beginning when he said the enemies of the people, calling the press enemy of the people, and going after minorities and different people and stuff like that. And we know that as an NPD or a person of cluster B, if he is of cluster B, the love bombing technique that he's doing with Putin is basically, oh, you have this positive, I'm going to give you all this positive, give you this positive, this positive, and then once Trump became, when he said, oh, about not having to, about staying in office for forever and smiling about it, that was a truism. That's what he really wants to do. That's how he lies. The best lies are the truths that no one will believe. And once that would have happened, his superego, or he would be causing more chaos in the world, especially when he was saying about, oh, that was brilliant. Could you believe? It was not that brilliant. It was just obvious. I mean, but how to invade another country. I guarantee you, if that had been the case, he probably would have invaded Mexico. Trump can never see the Oval Office again. Um, to that end, I want to just, there's a, so, due to, because of this, there's some two things that I've noticed, just real quick, that there's a, I'm not going to go over everything on my notes today. I think I'm just going to do part of it. But there's two things where, concerning two politicians. One, we know that Senator Sinema wants to become president now. She wants to be the racist president as opposed to the bigoted president. And that's how she's positioning herself slightly. And that's how she, obviously, the money is being fed to her to buy her out and feed her superego, and then her that, yeah, it's screwing over. She's just screwing over the black folks. She ain't screwing over the Democratic Party. And that the right has been pulled so far right that if she's just a little bit, safe right, and then call herself a Democrat, so you can say she's with the people. Don't fall for it. She's a POS. Because they're using her yeah. She thinks she's going to become the first female president. Because yeah, which would fit into the whole construction of how most European Americans view themselves. To have Kamala Harris as the vice president, first vice president, is female vice president, to the evangelicals and the bigoted persons, they hate it. They absolutely despise it. They absolutely hate it. So we should see how that goes. Now, with Senator Manchin right now, because of all of these situations, people talk about right now, the dollar is tied to oil. Believe it or not, the dollar doesn't actually float. The dollar is tied to oil. It's even though it floats, it's still tied to oil. It's a weird thing. It's tied to the output and production of America, of Americans, and it's tied to oil. So right now, oil prices are going up. Make no mistake about it. It's at $100 a barrel as I checked yesterday. Uh, People are loving it. They're eating it up, and then they're going to make money when it drops down, anyways. At least the big players. The thing for the Manchin, it means coal. I don't know if coal will go up or coal or whatever. But here's the thing. This is to the United Mine Workers of America, in West Virginia specifically. Senator Joe loves you so much. Thinks you're your people. Coal prices go up. You need to strike. And here's the thing: you're not striking for. You're going to strike for wage. Better you keep your wages and all those things, but you're going to say we want 50% or 49% of prices from this point upwards. Whatever, not just getting a paycheck, a little bit to your pension fund, because they really don't care about that. It's throwaway. You want half or up to half of, because it's a dying industry, of the profits are coming out of these companies. Since he really cares about you. Let's see how quickly he tells you to go take a hike and jump off the nearest cliff. because he doesn't give a shit about you guys. But hey, he just keeps you pointing over. Look at those Negroes. At least you're doing better than the Negroes. I've been playing that, beating that dead horse. It's been useful, so why not? Another thing is Senator Rubio. Val Demings, even though is running against Marco Rubio in Florida, and I grew up in Florida, and one of the things is I personally, going after Marco Rubio, I don't view him as the more dangerous Republican. I view Skeletor or Rick Scott as the more dangerous Republican because he's not even really a Floridian. He just came to Florida and ripped off all the old people, and being rewarded for it with power in the Republican Party, which is absolute garbage. The he planted out a trial balloon a couple of days, week, I don't know, a little while ago, not too long ago, where he was trying to see if he can cleave off Asian Americans. I hope not, because he's going to use that because that's also within the whole white nationalist thing because they have this thing about you can hook up with a tiger mom, you, and they still view that as their power, that they're still power and control and in power. And you see what Mitch McConnell is doing, as he sold out America to both China and Russia, and we and yeah, he's not. Yeah, our politicians are whatever the heck happened to them. Whatever happened to the Republicans are well. It's horrifying. We also realize now that China has bought out GM for 1% of the 50 billion. So we, the taxpayers, gave GM 50 billion. China gave them 5 billion or whatever billion, and then they get control of all R&D, research, and control over pretty much GM. What the fuck's going on, man? We're being ripped apart from the inside out. And by the ones who babble about patriotism the most. It's disgusting. There was a billboard I'm going to be going over because it's with Rick Scott's. I could probably do it today because I got so many other things to do, but I just needed to get this out. Where Rick Scott has his 11-point thing, and we know that Republicans in general, because especially with the evangelical system, where it is very top to bottom, you do what the person above you is told, it tells you to do thing. Palin has this billboard, and I know she put it specifically to think it's triggered. It's like, oh, that's cool. It's put this billboard, and the only thing it says is freedom. Big words, freedom. And then Rick Scott has these 11 things. And one thing I'm going to say about before, because I'm not going to go into today, is on one of them is energy independence. Yet everything he's doing is making us energy dependent. It's quite hilarious. We'll go into that deeper at another time. So, and the reason it's ridiculous what's going on right now. Another thing is we look at food prices right now. There's going to be a severe drought this season in South America. We can probably weather it this year, but there's also looks like there's going to be another. The mega drought's going to get worse, and a lot of our wheat's coming from Washington State in the west. So we're going to see if the crops are destroyed. Then we might have strong hurricanes rolling up through the Midwest, which is the wheat and corn and all. I mean, lots of corn and all the soybeans and all that. We'll see what happens there. If we get too much rain or if we get drought conditions in the Midwest, more than likely we get too much rain as the water in the Gulf heats up, and then you start having throughout Tornado Alley just deluge after deluge. We'll see what happens. But as far as water is concerned, the West is going to get drier and drier, and it's going to get hotter and hotter. And people are going to go crazier and crazier. Oh, here's the thing. The other day I was talking to this guy. He's a quote a Republican operative. He's taking get Republicans onto the ballot. I mean, I didn't see any Democrats out here doing that, which is sad. No grassroots work out in front of Walmart. Even if there aren't any Democrats in this county, at least show a presence. It's mind-boggling how disorganized the Democrats are. They're always up top, high, high, higher. It's hilarious because the Republicans believe in top down, and they actually actuate in top down, but they organize from the bottom up. With the Democrats, supposedly believe on the bottom up, but they organize from the top down. It's ridiculous. But there's nothing going on around here to try to get Democrats onto the ballot or a similar type of initiatives. But I was sitting there talking to this guy, and he's from California, and he was basically it was a 10-minute gaslight conversation, but he didn't know I knew he was gaslighting me every time which and I do mean exactly what I said by California. Californians have a distinct form of gaslighting, conversational gaslighting speech. And I'm just listening, no, no. But since, as I said, once I know you're lying to me, it was whatever. But in this conversation, one of the things it was then what I've noticed with him is all he was trying to do was try and play his triggers. All he would say, Joy Reid, or whatever. Did you try to do this and try to that? Because I said I'm independent. I used to be Republican, but the one that got me is not got me. What I thought was interesting. It was when he did this whole. It's this. I do all this racism. I don't see it, and that's one of their gaslights. It's I call it. It's the definitive hands on hips BS gaslight. And then it was like, I looked and I go, okay. I go, it's an implied statement. And then he all of a sudden broke away and tried to have, and I was like, oh, no, no, no. I ain't going to let you have that one. But the whole conversation was him trying to create a triggering event. So basically, it was him trying to get his narcissism fed. And I wouldn't say he's a narcissist, but fuck, yeah, the emotive, well, the language sets are the same sets of language that people with NPE class cluster Bs use, which is to throw out an emotion and then try to get a negative emotion out of you. So therefore, they, from their minds, with object permanency, is trying to say, well, if you now have that negative energy, then now have your positive, and that's how they think. But since none of it really triggered me, and I was just like, so let's have a conversation. It makes it really difficult for them to do that. Another thing is, see here, okay, the main thing I want to, all the other one is, before I get into this one, I really want, looks like Activision Blizzard is the workers there are trying to unionize. And of course, they're union busting and all that is going on. It suggested that you work with with what do they do within Starbucks, then try to tailor it to what you're doing within Activision Blizzard. And now, here's the thing about Activision Blizzard: these are people who are highly creative. These are very creative persons, code writers, artists, storytellers. They get it, and the main thing is, and the reason I'm saying you need to get onto the boards is because what happened in GM. GM basically just sold us out. They just sold us out. This is an where is it? Oh, I had just this is a great. I've known about this, but I didn't know how to state it. But GM has basically sold us out. General Motors sold out the entire country. Our intellectual property goes to the Chinese. We're getting our ass handed to us for a few $1 billion. This is the same thing that happened to Chrysler back in the 2000s. They needed some money GM and the Germans basically handed them their lunch because the Germans have gotten over the whole racism thing. So they learned, you know, this is what multicultural gives us. It gives us the ability to see BS and not fall for it. General Motors is pretty much a Chinese controlled company. It's up to the unions to bring her back home. We paid for the Chinese to screw us. We paid them 50 billion, and for a billion or so, they took all of our intellectual property. Intellectual property is what comes out of your mind, and they're taking us to our lunch, using our systems against ourselves. So Activision Blizzard needs to do the exact same thing, become a Starbucks, unionize, but in that union contract, get onto the board. I cannot believe, it sucks that these executives sold out America. No backbone pieces of crap. Because they got there not by being a kick ass, but by how good they can kiss ass. The West is getting its ass handed to it. But as long as people can be bigoted, they can keep throwing, as long as our leaders are bigots, they can keep getting and hiding their bullshit instead of kicking ass. And they hide their bullshit by externalizing it. And it's not made very good, even worse, because African Americans, after generations of generations, don't have the cultural systems to not screw each other over. I was watching this thing, and it was talking about the Bloods and the Crips, and it was a Caucasian guy going into Compton, and just listening to it, and I'm sitting here going, their behaviors, I would never hire any of those fuckers. And you got this dude below me decides he wants to come up. Hey man, I heard you do this. I'm like, no, I don't know you. You didn't bring anything. What was your value add? You're not a value add. Deuces. But because I could tell, because his rhythms are connected to the Bloods, I cannot trust him, and I will not have him near me at all. Which means he'll try to push harder or he'll find another person to do so. That's how their normal behavior is. They enslave themselves. This sucks. But they'll argue and call me out and say all this shit. I'm like, dude, I don't really give a shit. I really don't care. I just want to be the fuck away from all of you personally. But I still like humanity. I still like living in America. And we're destroying ourselves. It's the old fucks can't get their head out their ass, and they're teaching the young folks stupid shit. And the world's changed. Mitch McConnell sold out this country. Still hasn't told us what his wife has done to our shipping. Now we know. The tiger pussy has made him rich. Richer than he could ever imagined. With the cost he sold out his country, and the Kentuckians. And you don't know after bullshit. Mitch McConnell's thing is it's always about waiting. That's why he's called the turtle. So he's going to expect you to forget this, and you probably will. But you're going to remember. He sold out this country. He sold out the people of Kentucky. He gets all the money from Washington. Only reason Kentuckians aren't living in purely post Dust Bowl or late 1800s poverty is because of Fort Knox and the money it gets from the government. But its people are poor. And poverty is not so much about money, but opportunity to create new. So is Manchin. Now, here's what we're going to go through here is something that when I was at the medical marijuana dispensary here in Colorado last time, they told me a law had passed, and I kind of was like, yeah, dude, it's all good, man. It's Colorado, dude. It's not going to affect me because it was like, whoopty. Because, and it was the way Colorado, because it was like, it's Colorado, dude. The way the whole system was set up, it was almost like the Trustafarians up in Boulder got together with like local people, local business, like, dude, how would we make this like so rock star to where we can build out small businesses and then grow those into the big businesses, blah, right? And the system in Colorado is pretty rock star. Doctor checks you out, you go do your thing, and he's like, hey, can you? And if you can prove or you've shown these different types, and the doctor has a they can recommend because right now at the federal level, marijuana is still technically illegal, technically. And the whole thing was about concentrates. So we're gonna get to that in a second. But so I was like, okay, that's cool. But I just ignored it. And it was like, I had so many other things. This is Colorado, dude. We're cool, man. And it just because this is what I'm saying is I'm saying this because that dude who was from California was trying to get all these sort of thing, the signatures on the ballots and all that. He had the sign and he had tried different. So he was calling himself a marketer. Like, dude, you're no marketer, you're a salesperson, but whatever. And but he's using the slogan don't California my Colorado," as he's California and Colorado. Go figure. Pretty much your normal NPD type person. But one of the things of Colorado I used to love, really cool, is back in the day, dude. You go snowboarding, bro. Like when before Vail Resorts was Vail Associates and it was still privately owned, and the way mountains up here used to work, is you'd come out, you freaking got out of school, you go freaking just snowboarding, whatever, dude, right? And then at the end of season, you go, you you worked your 6 months. It'll also give you a little bit of bonus. Here's your thing, but also you put in for your because you had to be usually laid off in between mud seasons and stuff, in between seasons. You get some unemployment, whatever. They killed the unemployment. Vail Resorts, greedy little shits, quit, and then they pretty much just started squeezing these kids coming out here doing a gap year or whatever, just treating people like crap. It's not the same vibe. Yeah, Vail is basically a company town as opposed to Aspen. Well, it's technically a company town because it was also a mining town before, but it's definitely Vail's most definitely a company town. And there, as Vail Resorts moved itself, the headquarters out to the Front Range, more people, it lost that the vibe, the mountain vibe, the exploration vibe that really makes Colorado really kick ass. And we're getting more Californians coming in with their BS, gaslighting BS bullshit, right? So he's play this CA Mike CO. And as I'm sitting here thinking about this, I'm going, okay, let's check this out. That's their vibe. That's the emotion vibe. So, Colorado is usually, hey, dude, chill, trust. Hey, what's up, dude? How you doing, bro? Hey, hard scrabble, kick ass. It's just usually in general, it's pretty chill. The front rangers and the mountain folks, and usually it's like I used to say back in the day. It was like, hey, dude, it's that one dude. It's like, yeah, man, you Colorado, dude. People expect you to go do shit, right? Yeah, go take off, check out this place, go do that. Very, especially up in the mountains, very Republican, or used to be what's called conservative. Now, Republicans are no longer conservative. They're pretty much turned into Nazis. But you know, expect it was a more of a definitely kick-ass, cooler vibe. So the whole pot set was designed to help small. Everyone got a slice. Okay, doctors got a slice, but they had to still be legit. But they got a slice, and doing the whole. You do your check to make sure if you're going to do medical. Then and then you would say, okay, do I want my pot? Do I want to grow my plants myself, or do you want to grow the plants? And then that would be with the dispensary, so they got a vibe, and then they can grow more plants legally, and it's from seed to sale, so it keeps the keeps the cartels out of the situation. and also keeps really high quality. All right. So for this, after I dealt with this dude, I see this thing over in Cal. I was watching the news and I was watching this in California. Granted, yeah, the first ones get the whole legal marijuana, but here's the thing: what Cali did recently, they started taxing the crap out of these small businesses. So I remember the one guy I was watching. He said, like, yeah, he's making 11 million in revenues, takes home 100,000. So they just turned this guy into an employee, the state of California, because half of that revenue, over half of that revenue, is not just COGS and your things like that, is taken up with taxes. That's BS. And these aren't taxes that you can offset or anything else. It's just straight up taxes. So they turn these business owners into employees. $100,000 ain't shit in Canada, especially as a business owner. You should. I mean, even if he half of that in tax, people expect that, okay, yeah, higher taxes on stuff like that. But here's the thing: most people are going to say that, but that's what the reason. The thing is, what's going on? Because I'm seeing all these are two. What I'm going to say here is happening in Cali is connected to what's going on in Colorado, because this is Big Pharma. Why I'm going to say it's Big Pharma? Here's the thing: if you're a big company and you know you can manipulate, you have crony capitalism, what do? You raise the taxes. That pushes all the smaller people who created the systems, who created all these brands. You come in and you buy the brands, then you take your money, go over to the legislator and go, oh, we got higher taxes. Then you slice the taxes. Now you've bought out 10 or 20 different businesses that are barely making it. Their cartels are back in business, in the pot business, because taxes are high. And it's basic problem solution BS. And so they'll buy out everybody, lower the tax later, and they pull all the money out. And they're waiting for the federal legislation to turn so marijuana a is no longer illegal. So they're going to then buy out all these small mom and pops, as opposed to building, which is the way Colorado was designed, was we're going to build our homegrown system, so that way we build our small businesses to become big businesses, possibly. That's what the state's supposed to do. It's supposed to help the people within the state go from small to big if possible. So that's what's happening in California, and guarantee you watch why, because that's the culture of California. So they're just going to roll with their cultural set. That's how they operate, and that's how big business operates, and that's also how people with NPD operate. So over here, we're going to go. So what's going on here in Colorado is this. We got, usually, okay, you go in, you go get your medical marijuana check out. You're like, okay, are you know, for with me, I have the paperwork, military, PTSD, percent, blah, blah, blah. But what did they do? Now, it seems like a good thing, right? The way they always do this is the one thing. They slammed it through the legislator, and now we have, and this is now where, when they say the hypocrisy of the Democratic Party, this is the hypocrisy of the Democratic Party. Instead of being for the small business and protecting the small business, this was all designed from, they saw a problem. Let's create, okay, there's a problem, a legitimate problem, where we have young people who are who are doing medical concentrates way too much. Okay, lower it for under 21. No biggies. And probably in the different things about people driving under the influence, totally. But this is BS. Lowering from 40 grams to 8. Now, this part, ages of 18 and 20, which should be 21 personally, doctor approval. I don't know if I'm gonna. I'm not. I still think that's BS, but I could kind of see where that one, because you're having these kids who are doing who are getting the medical marijuana, and then just not. using it correctly. But the way, and here's anti-legalization group. Yeah, I have no qualms with it staying at 40% more stringency. But here, who's and so it's targeted at the youth. If it was targeted at the youth, then you would say, okay, from the youth under 21 to, this is the way we Coloradans used to would have done it before whatever the hell's going on. It would have been okay. It's a youth state of emergency. Kids are being silly. They're not. They're not. Okay. If you are medical marijuana, then you get your stuff. Then you should. Then you lower it if you're under 21. Kids are going to find a way around it. Kids are going to find a way around this. Nothing they're going to do is going to stop kids. That's what kids do. But that's fine if it was targeted to those persons under 21, which is. But what they're doing, what this really is makes this a prescription. What this is, when you combine it with the two situations that are going on in California and here, this is Big Pharma prepping the land to take over medical marijuana. And to destroy what we've created here in Colorado. This is that whipsaw knee jerk BS. California, my Colorado. Secondaries, you're going to get saying diagnosis and all this. This is bunch. This is BS. It's not, especially when you read the whole thing. Once you go through and read it, which I did, of course, obviously. Um, and then it's going to force doctors to violate laws, which then they're going to say, well, I guess we're going to have to legalize it nationally, and then we're going to come in, and because it's lowered, once again, now they can now control the medical marijuana side in Colorado. This is not about the health, because it was about the health of the youth. It'd been just like beer, 21 older, because we know that CBD works really well. We know that THC is good. Okay, if you're 21 and older, you're going to lower that down. Maybe if you wanted to get it from 8 to 40, then you would go, okay, then you get a second opinion. If you're under 21. Over 21, we assume you're a freaking adult. You know how to be responsible. If not, then you up the problems if you get caught, just like you get with beer and wine. But no, they attack the doctors. This is a salvo deterred to take from Big Pharma to try to take over the marijuana industry within Colorado and the nation. These two different acts are one in the same, or one within the same meme, same thinking set of control. When you understand this action that's going on here, you'll see that same type of behavior with a lot of other things. I've seen this years and years. Like, great people will. I was working in this one restaurant. It was the top 100 wine restaurant in the world. Dude, this one dude, he was so full of shit. He was just a plain up, straight up jackass. Screwed up the restaurant. Same thing I saw in the Navy. It's the reason I had to put the EO in. Because if that dude, if that culture, that these psycho, because the one dude I called was a psychopath. That was the first time I researched psychopathy, and when I put in my data sets, I said back that he was a psychopath. Same shit, different pile. So people who are creative and thoughtful create these great systems. A psychopath with and a cluster B with their dialectical will come in and go, oh, we can't do that, and then they create messes and hells, and then they screw everything up, but they still are stealing everything. The same thing happened. There was this one when I was up in the mountains. My particular one who did my medical marijuana is one dude who lived kind of near me, and he was a complete jackass. Is because I doubt his behavior has changed. What he did is he created very low key created a toxic work environment, and everyone dipped. I know this because I was talking to him and I was talking to the people there because one of the things because it was cool because one of the coolest things about Colorado, the way we do weed here is it's more like wine. Well, until COVID, once we get past this COVID crap and get back to it, dude. Because unlike like every place else, it's this and it's all packaged and it sucks. Colorado, it's like wine. You go, you sit there, and you can smell it. You open it up, you take a big whiff, and go, okay, that turpentine tastes really good, and smell of that turpentine, and you pick it from what fits you, right? If you're getting flour, and this dude just killed that vibe. And everything he did, when you have a conversation, there's always this. He was good at it, at being sly, but I'm not an average person. So as far as what seems him being clever, it's one thing about people who are clever. I call them bobbleheading. I've said this before. Is they'll say something and then they'll bobblehead. And they'll kind of like, make sure I got through. And I'll just act like, yeah, you fooled me. See what you're gonna say next. Oh, so that's where you're going, you dumb fuck. So I know that's what he was bullshit. That he was full of bullshit. And he created a toxic work environment. People left, and the good people who had built who had really good vibe, you go and they're like, dude, hey bro, what's up, dude, and you're like, dude, check this out, we got freaking ramen that's coming off of this dude, he's won this with the freaking cannabis cup, woo, right? You know, to this dude who he might still do that, but you could see it's that whole, well, not very not very good, but kind of good type personality. Gaslighting, conversational gaslighting shit. But this is what it leads to. It leads to crap like this. This is the same type of thinking that we're seeing here that GM sold out the country. It's the same type of thinking of Mitch McConnell selling out the country through Kentucky, thinking you could. He's been for years and years and years dumping it on Black African Americans while he's screwing over Kentuckians and the country because they believe in people being poor and not having the opportunity to build something for themselves. Most Americans believe in a fair shot. Yeah, elbow, cheating ain't trying. You kind of do, but this is completely different. This is the incompetent being shitty and pushing out the people who really are kick ass, and then you know. But if you once you understand how they think as an externalization, low object permanency externalization, i.e., if you're in a good positive mode, that means they view your positive energy as an actual thing that they have to take because they don't themselves don't have it, and and so you get that, and they just created messes. All the It's bullshit. So that's what's going on. Big Pharma is trying to, GM's been sold out. Big Pharma is trying to take over the marijuana industry in the country and override these things that we put together. Because I said, if it was really common sense, we already have these systems in place. You caught riding high, dude. Okay, 10 grand. It's gonna cost you 10 grand. Just use the same systems we have for beer and wine. And if you're under 21, 8 grams. If you want a secondary, to get the 40 grams, then you go get the secondary. That's the way we would have done it before. This is not the way. This is not a Colorado thing. This is done with California style thinking. So when people are saying "Don't California my Colorado," that's the bullshit there. That's what they mean, but they don't really understand it. Coloradans were very blunt, even if we are being joshing. It's still there's a backbone about it. This is the same thing this is the effects of Trumpism. low backbone, cowardly little shits, or in Trump's case, fat little shits. Psychologically, he's a coward, little small little person. That's why he has to try to grow himself. And he said, and he probably Trump would go, "You wouldn't say that to my face." I'm like, you forgot my personality type, motherfucker. Yeah. You can be angry and rageful all you want. That just makes me more driven. That tells me how he's a pussy. And that's like with Palin hiding behind her husband, who she keeps nice and angry so she can trigger him whenever she wants. So and then she can have shit behavior. She's gonna get him killed. Anyways, not by me, but she's, if we didn't live in a normal society, and she would say, no, and he would have killed other people. Hip side, hip, hands on hips. No. People that are that angry, if you didn't read this, don't read Sun Tzu. They get killed. This is what happens when you have a bunch of little brats running shit. So, anyways, pray for Ukraine. We can give them all. We can give them weapons, and we can't make that. We can't do that fight for them. They never joined NATO because they thought Russia was their brother. And as one frontline fighter said, "You're no longer our brother." Kind of like me dealing with my brother. He's my brother, but can't be trusted. I've never tried. I haven't trusted him in 20 years, 20 some odd years, and to now know that it was because of my sister-in-law and my mom. Yeah, abusive people become bullies, and they think they can abuse other people, and they get pissed when you stand up for yourself. And then they try to make you look bad for standing up for yourself, for not putting up with their BS. This is a great one. I suggest you read it, especially those persons who, I'm a small business person. I believe in business. I believe in making a boat ton of money as a business person. Don't get me wrong. My businesses, I'm not going to be like, oh, this is what you asked for. This is where hey, you're going to make money off of this, but don't sit there and think you got options into the regular big country. I already have all that set up and what I need to do in the way I want it, set it up because my businesses are not set up. The design of what I do has certain other strategic goals, which I know persons like Graven and all those big Texas bigots who are watching this, or people thinking I'm going to show how like that one dude who wants to, what was that one dude? That one dude that doesn't really help. That stool sports, and all the people are watching my fucking. I was sitting there trading the day, and all of a sudden, somebody started to watch my screen. I'm like, hey, ain't that a motherfucker? Then the chart started doing something different. I'm like, So you motherfuckers are watching. That's interesting. So they're terrified of me. They're absolutely terrified of me because I won't take their money. I'd rather earn it on my own. Depend on your own arms. So I don't assume I'm going to live through this. So I'm going to be as pain in the ass as I possibly can. But I'm going to do it on my own way. And you might go, but Ravens, he's a SEAL, dude. He's an admiral. He's a bigot. So as mentioned, they're bigots. They've proven that they're bigots by their behaviors. I'm not a politician. I don't care. And if I say if they try to get me to run, I'm like, no, dude. That's the reason they wanted me to run, is that way they can control me. Do you get it? They're destroying this country, and they're keeping everyone confused. So don't California my Colorado. And I suggest, it is highly suggested, that these small business owners that even if you're not a small business or you're big money and you put money into these medical marijuana, and you're probably thinking, well, that means I can get bought. No, no, they're not gonna buy you if they can squeeze your numbers. Then they're gonna buy you out for less money than you're worth. So, for instance, that marijuana dispensary in Cali, it's going to get bought out. So they get bought out. Maybe he has only 2 or 3 stores, 100,000. Maybe he's only pulling in 300,000 off of each, right? Gets bought out. Instead of being bought out for at least half a billion, because it's 10 million, each one's due 10 million, so 30 million times that. So let's throw 300 million. You can do well. You're only making 300,000, so we're gonna give you 10, 20 million. Get it? That's the play. That's how these shitty people keep pulling the ladder up from people who create. And this is a bunch of bullshit. This is California, not Colorado. And now I understand why they asked me, hey, dude, this is BS. So if you have a chance, if you're in Colorado, please sign because it's going to affect you. Because it also means you can't have as many plants on you if you grow your own. This is completely dismantling one of the coolest, the most high quality marijuana industries in the country. So Big Pharma can take it over, as opposed to we building it and then we create our own. If we're going to do pharmaceuticals, we grow it from the ground up. We don't let fucking Wall Street fuck with us and sell us out like GM is doing to the rest of the country. So, anyways, I wish everyone well. Pray for Ukraine.